Good evening, everyone. We will now begin the evening service of the Miroku Association headquarters, expressing our gratitude to God and Meishu-sama for blessings and protection received while participating in the construction of paradise on earth. Amatsu-Norito and Miroku Prayer, please stand.
高天原にかむずまります。かむろぎかむろみのみことを用いて、すめみよやかむいざなぎのみこと、つぐしのりむかの立ち花の、おののあはぎはらに指そぎ払いたもうときになりませる。払いのの神たちもろもろのまがごと罪汚れを払いたまえ清めたまえとまおすことのよしをあつ神国つ神やおよろずの神たちともに雨の淵駒の耳振り立ててぎこしめせとかしこみもまおす弥勒大神守りたまえ先はえたまえ弥勒大神守りたまえ先はえたまえ教えみよや主の神守りたまえ先はえたまえ教えみよや主の神守りたまえ先はえたまえかんながらたまちはえませ。かんながらたまちはえませ。
Great God of light, creator and giver of all life, in accordance with your divine will, the long age of night draws to an end. Your radiant divine light, shining evermore brilliantly, awakens the dawn of the glorious age of light, a time long awaited by all humanity. We thank you for guiding us to your divine plan and for the privilege of channeling and receiving Johrei. May our spirits and bodies be illuminated and purified as we live your truth given to us by Meishu-sama. Make us pure and effective instruments of your divine light, so that we may serve you and all those with whom we come in contact. May paradise on earth be realized, with health, peace, and prosperity, a reality in our lives. Great God of light, bless and protect us. Radiate our souls with your divine light, so that we may truly become instruments of your great plan. Please be seated. We will now receive group Johrei.
May God and Meishu-sama bless you.
Johrei is now concluded. We will now listen to a reading from Meishu-sama's teachings. Truth, virtue, and beauty. Only deeds of love can bring forth a world completely filled with truth, virtue, and beauty. Paradise on earth will be a world of beauty, a place where the inner hearts of all its inhabitants are just as beautiful. One whose thoughts, words, and deeds are always pure, always beautiful, can surely be considered one who lives in paradise. God's purpose is to create an ideal world where truth, virtue, and beauty reign. Needless to say, the dark forces foster falsehood, vice, and ugliness. Beauty is necessary to the soul, as it brings joy and a sense of wholeness, not only to yourself, but to all who come in contact with it. It can be called a kind of virtue. The higher a civilization is, the more conscious it should be of the value of and need for beauty. It is essential that everyone cultivate a greater sense of aesthetic values. By so doing, not only individuals but nations as a whole will benefit. Making beauty and its expressions in the various phases of life one of the person's main goals is a contribution of immeasurable value towards the betterment of society, which will certainly serve as a means of furthering the realization of paradise on earth. Beautiful environments make for beautiful thoughts, helping to place a person's mind on a higher plane. This, in turn, reduces crime and other negative actions in society. It must be realized that any teaching that aims at high ideals should maintain an awareness of beauty.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this evening service of the Miroku Association. This morning, some of you couldn't log into our YouTube channel. Our service was broadcasted in both YouTube and Facebook. A technical issue, which we are still trying to find out what really happened. So I guess computers are also moody sometimes. Today I'd like to share this faith experience. This was shared on June 13th, and her name is Osvana de Almeida. And what I felt attracted to this experience was the relation with today's teaching of truth, virtue, and beauty. Osvana is 56 years old. And she has been a Johrei member for 26 years. She's also an assistant instructor of Ikebana Sangetsu at the Johrei Center called Itaparika. She's married, have 4 children, everyone in the family are members, and for 24 years they have their home altar dedicated. Osvana is sharing a faith experience she had recently, in which after a period of purification and uncertainty, she and her family could establish paradise in their lives through giving of themselves in service and unconditionally surrendering to the divine will. Osvana is a professor, educator, and postgraduate in clinical and institutional neuropsychopedagogy. Although she retired in 2017, Osvana had an employment relationship where she taught children and trained literacy teachers. On March of 2020, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, she received the notice of suspension of classes. It was very difficult for her to get used to the new routine after 38 years of working up so many days at the school. Also, since her husband is self-employed and works in tourism, his income was sharply affected. They accumulated lots of debts and even delayed electricity and condominium maintenance bills. They were very anxious and worried about their situation, which affected them emotionally and triggered family conflicts. However, as she spent more time with her family, offering almost exclusive attention, she realized how important this is. Osvana realized that for many years, due to the long workday and always focused on the professional life, she didn't have time to pay attention to her home as she should. Osvana changed her point of view and understood that moment as a gift from God. In this way, she strived to initiate a real transition in thoughts, feelings, and attitudes, seeking to improve herself so that this change would be reflected in everyone around her. Osvana stopped complaining and began to offer help to family members, putting more love and gratitude in every action, trying to do things that made them happy. Thinking about the physical and spiritual health of everyone, she prepared healthier dishes and intensified the channeling of Johrei at home. She watched our online services and did not fail with the daily reading of the divine writings of Meishu-sama's teachings. In her mission as an Ikebana Sangetsu instructor, she continued improving herself, making flower arrangements, and through online workshops. In order to gain strength and protection to overcome hair purification, she made the decision to put her financial situation in order. The first action was to prioritize the donation of gratitude, which she and her family were not able to do. They organized their finances and eliminate unnecessary expenses. Osvana made ancestral enshrinement requests that they were pending and began to pray with family members daily before their altar, thanking for the blessings and protection received. In April, the employment contract came to an end and she was laid off from her company. With the severance package, she was able to pay off part of their debts. Knowing the difficulties they were going through, at the end of the month of May, her mother-in-law gave each child an amount as a gift. The amount received was exactly what her husband would get for the tour packages that were canceled. They had a family talk, and her husband immediately went to the Johrei Center and offered a special donation of gratitude. They were able to pay off all their debts and finally managed to reorganize their financial lives. Osvana and her family participated in the 2020 Paradise on Earth service with hearts filled with gratitude. At the end of the year, they reinforced their commitment to serving the divine plan in this year, 2021, and their goal to grow spiritually and materially. In the beginning of this year, blessings came to fruition, one after another. Osvana's daughter completed her graduation, had her internship contract finalized, and was hired as an employee, starting to contribute at home with food stamps. Her youngest son, who was unemployed, passed two selection processes and had the opportunity to choose the work in his preferred field. He will complete law school this year. The eldest son was promoted at work and started a new professional assignment in another state. Another very important point was the harmonious resolution of the inventory of the inheritance left by their parents. They are in 7 siblings, and since their mother passed away in 2015, they could not reach an agreement. Oswana prayed to God to show them the best way to start the dialogue and the sharing of family belongings. She began to keep her brothers in her mind during Johrei and the daily services, asking for God's clarification and reporting the facts that were happening to God. After many years and a change of heart, they could reverse the situation of disagreements and misunderstandings, and in March of this year, they reached a consensus and gained permission to sell their property. Oswana immediately materialized the donation and with great gratitude made the necessary prayer report in front of the altar. Today her family is well, in harmony, thriving, and actively serving the realization of paradise on earth. She received an invitation to return to work, but instead, she decided to continue taking care of her family and prioritizing her mission in the divine work. Oswana learned that when we trust in God, practice what we are suggested, and wait for the right time, everything works in our favor, and we are blessed and protected by God and our ancestors. Oswana is thankful to God, Meishu-sama, and ancestors for having managed to make this transition in her life, and for all the protection, inspiration, and discernment, so that the course of events could have reached a balance with positive results. Oswana reinforces her commitment to continue serving God and build a paradise-like home, seeking to follow the footsteps of Meishu-sama in connection with the principles of truth, virtue, and beauty. Oswana wants to share this paradise with as many people as possible, putting them in contact with the divine light through the 3 pillars of salvation of our church. It was a very inspiring, very nice experience, and this reminded me of what happened in my family. So my mother was the first member after 3 years of receiving Johrei, volunteering, assisting services, but she wanted to have a firm foundation before she would commit herself. And then after 3 years, she received the Hikari and started helping many people, guiding many people, and the situation in my family back in Brazil improved in all the areas. In the area of health, my father's job, he got a promotion, so finances were balanced. We were renting up to that point, and then she was able to buy a small lot, a plot of land, where he built our family home, and so everything was working in harmony between my father and my mother. So through this gradual and many blessings, in 1977, family decided to have the home altar. So we did. And we kept receiving people in our home. There was no Johrei Center nearby. I have to confess, as a teenager, I was not always happy that the strangers coming. I would ask my mother, why do they have to come here? Why do they go to the Johrei Center? But she didn't pay attention, fortunately, to my moods. So she wanted to help as many people as possible, and so she did. And that effort materialized then was 13 years later, 1990, where a Johrei Center was inaugurated in that neighborhood where I grew up, and today is a thriving, beautiful center, Johrei Center Interlagos. So like the faith experience today, like Oswana, so this strong desire to share a paradise-like home to as many people as possible. Osvana, being a Sangetsu instructor, practices these principles: truth, virtue, and beauty. Putting beauty in her life and wants to share beauty in the lives of others. So I'd like to share with you. Keep praying for your protection and for all those affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, those who departed, those who are receiving treatments right now, and want to wish you a very blessed evening. Thank you very much.
This brings to a conclusion our evening service. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a blessed evening.